For an easy, no-prep listening and vocab game, look no further than Swat the Word. To practice those particular skills, it could be the best of all. I'm Will from Enchanted ESL, and in this video I'll explain what Swat the Word is, how to play, and a few ways of adapting it. Swat the Word is my version of a very popular ESL game that's often called Fly Swat or something like that. It's usually played with real fly swats, and students go around and hit the words when they hear them. However, I'm not a big fan of using the fly swats. First of all, you have to get them, and not everybody has them. Plus, some younger students decide that hitting each other with the fly swats is much more entertaining than playing the game, and that can cause people to get hurt. For an injury-free game just focusing on the language, you can take a piece of paper, roll it up a little bit, and then scrunch the end like this, and you have a nice fly swat. It's quick and easy, and you can find paper pretty much anywhere. Swat the Word is definitely best with kids. Beginners and intermediates really. Advanced students won't get much out of it. And you can probably tell already it's not for online play. In-person classes only. If you're teaching a group class of any size, 2 or more, then they'll play head-to-head, 1 versus 1. Split the class in 2 and have one representative from each group come up for each turn. When teaching a one-on-one student, you can still play, but the competitive aspect is against the clock. How many correct words can they swat in 2 minutes? So, how do you play? Well, there are 2 main ways. One is with flashcards, and the other is making a word wall. If you have a set of big flashcards, like this, lay them out on the floor. It's best to have flashcards with just the picture on one side, or just the word, not both on the same side. Although with absolute beginner students it can be helpful to have the picture and the word. With smaller flashcards you can lay them out on a table instead. Then you call out one of the words and students race to find and swat the correct flashcard. The first one to do it gets a point. If you're doing it with the flashcards on the floor, get students down on their hands and knees. Running about with slippery bits of plastic can be quite dangerous. If they're already down there, they're not going to fall. And to make it more of a challenge for those confident students, instead of saying the word, say a description of the word. This means they have to listen very carefully. For example, airplane, you could say a big metal vehicle that flies in the sky. More on descriptions later. The second way of playing is with a word wall. Before you actually start the game, you need to make this by eliciting words from a particular target category from your students. Let's say you're teaching food. Get them to shout out a whole bunch of food words while you write them quickly on the board. Here you can also introduce new vocabulary and make sure the ones you want to target are up there too. Aim for at least 20 words, and the more the better. Then, just like the flashcards, you call out a word or a description, and students have to be the first to swat it. One thing I love about the word wall is you can take a photo of it and capture that for vocab practice later. The elicitation process is a good way of making words valuable. You can learn more about that on my series of videos about teaching vocab. The first video of that series is up there and down in the description. Now, regardless of which version of the game you play, there are some standard rules. First, physical contact is not allowed or should be very limited. So there's no pushing, no blocking, no swatting each other. But don't be too harsh on this because it is inevitable that they'll bump into each other as they're trying to get to the correct word. Just ban any deliberate attempts to stop the other player from getting to the word or anything that's dangerous. Second, if a player swats the wrong word, they are out for that turn. Their opponent now basically has a free hit. They can take their time to find the right one. This rule stops players just wildly swatting. They have to think carefully before striking precisely. Third, don't remove words once they've been swatted. You need to keep that wide range of possibilities for the game to still be good after a few rounds. If you start eliminating them, it will get easier and easier and easier. And the normal rule is you get a point if you're the first one to swat the correct word. But if you don't want to play with points, you don't have to. So the standard form of Swat the Word might not work perfectly with every class. Your class might need something different. So here are some adaptations you could try. Number 1 is to make it a collaborative game instead of competitive. Now, I usually steer clear of competitive games with students that I know just can't handle it. It always ends in disaster. So with those groups, instead of pitting them against each other, have them work together against the clock. They take it in turns to try to swat a word as quickly as possible. Set a timer for 2 minutes and see how many they can get. If they get one wrong, they don't get a point and you move on. With a big class, give them 1 turn each before the next student plays. But with a smaller group, they could have 2 or 3 turns at a time. It doesn't really matter how you organise this, do what you think is best. And you can choose to let teammates help out, but if they do, they must do it in English, of course. So if you want to do a word wall but you don't have a big whiteboard, maybe you're doing it with a very small group at a table, then you can do it on a piece of paper instead. Obviously then, a swatter the size of a piece of paper is going to be way too big. So instead you can play Jab the Word. Use a pen or something with a soft end, like the eraser on the end of this marker. Instead of swatting the words, students just jab them. Alternatively, if you have available to you a playground or a big hall or something and you've got some durable flashcards, you can spread them out over a big area. Students have to run around the place to find the correct words before they can swat them. The final thing to think about is giving good descriptions of the words. This is where you can make it more challenging for intermediate students. My tip is to structure the descriptions piece by piece. Slowly reveal a little more information. Like with the food words we did earlier. You could start by saying, it's a sweet food. That narrows it down, but it isn't enough yet because there are lots of sweet foods. You can buy it from a bakery. Okay, that eliminates a lot of options like ice cream, but there's still a few it could be. And finally, it's typical to eat this at birthday parties. Okay, now we know which one it is, we can swat the cake. This structured form really makes students listen carefully to everything that you're saying. One final tip with students you think can handle it, get them to say the descriptions. Making vocab practice fun is super important, especially with younger students. Another enjoyable classic ESL game with very little preparation is Stop. Find out how I use Stop in my classes right here. But for now, I've been Will from Enchanted ESL, wishing you all the joy and success in your teaching. See ya!